Heyo YouTube friends, welcome back to a little build showcase. I want to show off the build that I've been using in the past week or two for raiding. Let's say easier raiding content like normal and heroic raids. And the build I'm talking about is Total Eclipse. You can see some footage of me playing it in the background. And quick disclaimer here, it's not a top meta build. I'm not doing 10k TPS with it. In the footage you can see it's a cleave fight, so it clocks in a little bit higher than it would on pure single target fights. But that's fine, I'm having a blast playing this build, and the main selling point for this build and the reason why I was playing it is the fact that it has very reliable damage, it has no ramp up, not much buffs to track other than the Eclipse itself, and it's not very susceptible to any boss mechanics like the Arcane Thunderseer is, which I showed off last time. With that being said, of course the damage ceiling of this build is quite a bit lower than the Arcane Thunderseer, and I don't even want to compare it to this build anyways. The reason why I made this specific build is because its damage is super straightforward, it is very fast, it has very fast cast times, and it means it can perform in boss fights where the Arcane Thunderseer struggles. Like for example in the Onyxia fight that you can see in the background. When fighting Onyxia, you have to reposition yourself constantly. You have to stay on your feet to avoid fireballs, the blast breath, whatever. There's gonna be adds that you have to reposition for, and you still want to maintain quite a bit of damage while doing that. And the Arcane Thunderseer, well, sometimes it works, mostly you will lose your stacks and you will have a lot of headache tracking all your buffs. So this one is very straightforward. When you have to concentrate on the boss fight, or maybe you're new to these boss fights and you have to learn the mechanics in the first place, then this is a better build where you don't have to focus too much on your buffs and on your rotation, and you can focus more on the boss fight itself. While the fight is playing in the background, let's talk about the talents and REs for the build. And this is gonna go really fast because it's super straightforward, easy to build. Of course you need a legendary RE, which is Total Eclipse. There's not much to say about this, it just makes your lunar and solar eclipse a little bit stronger. Really nothing you have to think about. The interesting part of this build lies in the epic REs, and I tested them around quite a little bit. I'm using New Moon and Sunfire together. New Moon says that it increases the duration of Moonfire whenever you cast a spell, and this also works with Sunfire. Your Sunfire will get extended by New Moon, which means that practically in a boss fight you only have to apply Sunfire once and then you don't have to worry about it anymore, which is really convenient. The last epic RE I'm using is Celestial Fury. I think it's a pretty new one, at least I have not used it before, and it basically what it does is that your Wrath gives you stacks of the Celestial Fury buff, and your arcane spells, aka Starfire, will then deal bonus arcane damage. And this is about 10 to 15% of my overall damage, which is really good because it crits for like over 3k in normal fights. So this is a really good talent, a really good RE, and I think it's well worth it. For the blue REs, very straightforward. We're using Improved Insect Swarm, we're using all parts of this RE and of course of the talent, because we have both Insect Swarm and Moonfire up on the target. We use Nature's Majesty for just more crit and Moon Fury for just a little bit more damage. The last 3 REs you can fill out as need be. I think Celestial Focus is always a good pick, and then I use the 2-hit talents, the 2-hit REs, Balance of Power and Precision, and if you have enough hit you can swap them out, for example for Earth and Moon, to get just a little bit more damage, but it doesn't matter too much. As of talents, it's as straightforward as it gets. It's basically an OG Druid build. All my talents are in the balanced Druid tree, or close to all my talents, and there's really nothing special about it. I think the only thing worth mentioning here is Improved Fairy Fire. This gives hit rating, but it also gives 6% crit rating with all Druid spells to targets afflicted by Fairy Fire. And Fairy Fire lasts for 5 minutes. So most of the time you only have to apply this once in a boss fight anyways. So I think it's well worth it, and also not much headache to use, I would say. And it gives a lot of crit. It's a very good crit talent. The only other talents I'm using outside of the Balanced Druid tree is a Raise from the Elemental Shaman for just basic crit, and then Demonic Knowledge in conjunction with Summon Imp in order to get a little bit more spell power. The rotation is also super easy. I don't even want to talk about it. You can see me performing it in the background. Basically what you are doing is spamming Starfire while in Lunar Eclipse phase and spamming Wrath while in Solar Eclipse phase. On top of that I use Star Surge on cooldown just because it does a little bit more damage than the other two spells, but there's really not much to it. For the opener you have to apply Fairy Fire first, and then you wanna Wrath once into Sunfire, and then you're set up for the whole fight. And then you just go through your Starfire, your Lunar phase, and then your Wrath in your Solar phase. And that's it. And this is the main point why I like this build, because I can use it in complicated fights or whenever I don't feel like spending much brain power to play my build. So this is very easy to play, and there's nothing you can screw up in this build. And that exactly is the selling point, and why I think it's a very good build to play for A, beginners, and B, for veterans when you're having very complicated boss fights. There's one last thing I want to touch on regarding Total Eclipse. I am well aware that there's a pure Arcane version of this build at the moment, which is not using Wrath, but instead Arcane Missiles and Starfire. But I tested this build, but I chose to not play it in the end, because the playstyle and the feeling is very similar to Arcane Thunderseer, as in just how it plays, but also where it performs and where it doesn't perform. The pure Arcane version, I feel, wants to be standing still, it wants to turret cast a lot, and if you can't do that, I think the damage suffers a lot. And this is exactly what I didn't want of this specific caster build. I wanted a caster build that can perform in boss fights where you have to move a lot or where you get disrupted a lot. And for this I think the OG Total Eclipse version that I built here is just better suited, and it's the reason why I'm playing it and why I'm enjoying it a lot. Alright, that's it. I hope I didn't forget anything important. Of course I will upload the build to the Hero Architect over on Archimonde, so if you want to try it out for yourself, feel free to do so, check it out there. If you have any suggestions on how to squeeze out just a little bit more damage out of the build, let me know, leave a comment down below and I will test it out. That would be really nice. So yeah, until then, thanks for watching to this point and see you on the next video. Goodbye.